If you're watching this, it's likely that you were called to build a business. And in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you how to identify exactly what business you may be called to start and how to start it this week, even if you have no audience, no money, and no clue what you'd sell. And be sure to stay until the end because I'm going to share with you the number one question you need to ask yourself to make absolutely sure that you're on the right path. This is the linchpin to your entire business, so you do not want to miss it. Here's the process we'll use. I'm going to walk you through 3 questions that will help to reveal your assignment, how to know if it's financially viable, and the one move that you must make to turn it into a real business. But before we get to that, I want you to hear this because it's the truth that almost nobody will tell you, not because they're holding out or gatekeeping, but because they likely haven't discovered it for themselves. Christian entrepreneurs or aspiring ones waste so much time looking for ideas. It's a waste because God does not give out ideas. He gives out assignments. And there's a big difference. When you're obedient to your assignment, the blessing follows. That's the way he set it up. Now, I'm not suggesting that everyone's assignment is entrepreneurship because clearly it's not. And Jeremiah 1:5 tells me that you already have yours and I already have mine. It's our jobs to discover it. And if it's entrepreneurship, you obtain clarity by being a believer who understands that this is an assignment and not an opportunity. Because when you look for opportunities instead of assignments, you quit when things get hard. When the launch flops, nobody buys, the algorithm changes. You basically have a borrowed idea with nothing underneath it. And then on the back end, people struggle and ask themselves, is this what I'm really supposed to be doing? When this is the question you're supposed to ask and pray about on the front end. See, when you have an assignment, things are different. When you suffer setbacks, as we all do, you see it as an event that is part of the journey. It's part of you growing from faith to faith. But it's not your identity because your assignment is anchored in the 2 things that don't move: how God designed you and your unique design serves a real need and how that real need impacts people. Now, I can't guarantee that your business will last. Nobody can. But a business based on an assignment has the blessing woven into the tapestry of the business. And you can't replace that. You can't buy that. You can't YouTube your way to that. So how do you find your assignment? Well, you don't brainstorm the market for it. You audit your life for it through prayer, study, and reflection. It's already sitting in your life in plain sight. It just shows up at the intersection of 3 things. And I'm going to give you those 3 things right now. Number 1, your proven skills. Not the skills you wish you had, the ones with receipts. So ask yourself, what have people already paid you to do? Think about jobs, side work, freelance work, that thing you did to help your cousin out, the thing that people constantly call you about. And if nobody's paid you yet, what have they thanked you for? What do coworkers bring to your desk that isn't even part of your job description? What do friends call you about late at night when they're struggling? It isn't just what you've been paid for, because payment and gratitude are both evidence of your calling. There are market signals telling you what skills already have value, so I want you to write those down. Don't filter them. Don't overthink them. Just write it down because we all have something. Number 2 is your lived experience. What have you been through and come out on the other side of that people might still be stuck in, even as we speak? Maybe you've dug your way out of debt. You've rebuilt your career after a layoff, built a side income while raising kids, fixed your health, learned a trade from nothing, or maybe you've walked through a really painful season that you wouldn't wish on anyone. Your experience is not just history. It is your inventory. It's the tools in your toolbox. And what you've survived is a map for someone who's in it right now that might not see a way out. So write down everything you can think of, at least 2 seasons that you wish you had a map for when you were in it, yet you've come through it and somebody behind you is entering it or in the middle of it. Then take a look to see if there's any connection or any common denominator tied to those seasons. Number 3, people you can't ignore. Who do you find yourself wanting to serve, wanting to help and support, even if no one was paying you for it? Whose problems stay on your mind long after you've left that person's presence? When you're scrolling and you see someone dealing with something, go ahead and describe that if it resonates with you. Who makes you want to reach through the screen and help them if you possibly could? Because that pull is not random. It is by design. Write down specifically who they are, not just people. It could be new parents, people trying to get fit, new entrepreneurs, people who are grieving or have addiction issues, people dealing with health-related challenges. And it doesn't have to all be unfortunate things. It could be anything. But whatever it is, describe that person in as much detail as you can. So much so that if someone read your description, they could easily visualize the person you're referring to. Now you've identified a skill you have with receipts an experience that you've come through, and a group of people who you're drawn to. And where those three overlap, that is absolutely not coincidental, and it's not a hobby, because Ephesians 2:10 tells me that we are God's workmanship, created for good works, which God prepared beforehand that we should walk in them. Now listen very closely to how the Apostle Paul constructed that verse. Okay, the first thing that happens is the works were prepared. Then we were created to walk in them, which means your job was never to find your assignment. It is to recognize it because it's already within you. So before you build anything, I want you to take a minute, despite the excitement, and just ask yourself, does this solve a permanent need? If it's assignment based, it likely does. If it's an idea, then probably not, because trends come and go. Needs are here to stay. People will always need a solution to their problems. You do, I do, everyone does. They'll need guidance through situations they can't figure out alone, and they'll always pay to learn faster than trial and error. This was true years ago, and it'll be true as long as the earth remains. If your assignment intersects a need like that, you're not gambling anymore. You're stepping into demand that always existed instead of stepping into delusion that never did. Now, if that overlap doesn't reveal a permanent need to you just yet, don't get discouraged. You likely just need to explore some different niches within that topic. Now, I can't tell you exactly what that is, but I can tell you that it absolutely exists, because there are no human needs that people won't exchange resources for. We do it all the time. If your overlap does help identify a permanent need, then I want you to ask this follow-up question. What expensive, painful, permanent problem does my overlap solve for people? This is a very important question. And when I say expensive, I'm not talking about expensive to you in terms of what you can charge for it. That's not the issue. I'm talking about how expensive it is for them in terms of costing them time, relationships, their health, their peace, things that are expensive to each and every one of us. That's the focus that I want you to have. Write that answer as a single sentence, and I'll give it to you one more time. What expensive, painful, permanent problem does my overlap solve for people? That sentence is gold, because now we're going to turn it into an offer. Once you complete this and you have your offer, you're going to be excited, which is great. And you should be, but it's also dangerous. So I need you to resist the biggest temptation in this entire process, the urge to build 5 or 10 different things. You don't need 5 things. You need one clear offer, and it fits one clear sentence. I take this specific person from a specific problem to a specific result. That's the whole offer. That's your sentence, and you need to be able to say that easily and clearly so people understand it. Say it out loud with the components plugged in. And if you can't say it with one sentence, you don't have an offer yet. You have a hope and a wish, and people, wise ones anyway, don't buy hopes and wishes. They buy outcomes. So sharpen that sentence until a kid could hear you once and repeat it back to you. I'll share mine with you, and then I'll share something that's critically important to this entire process. My sentence is, I teach coaches, creators, and entrepreneurs how to build businesses and wealth God's way. That's it. Nothing fancy, nothing complicated or in need of a long-winded explanation. It's 14 words that I can repeat in less than 10 seconds without thinking. I share what I teach, who I teach, and the methodology I use to teach. Pretty simple, doesn't need an explanation. But part of my responsibility, part of my assignment in teaching people how to build businesses and wealth God's way is to emphasize the importance of prayer. I can't stress this enough. Don't get so caught up in the research and the excitement of potentially starting a business that you forget the one that gave you the assignment in the first place. This is a critical mistake that sometimes we make unintentionally. To leave prayer out of the equation is to go back to the aimless ideas and the chasing of trends like everyone else. And you'll never be aligned, and even worse, you'll never be fulfilled if you do it this way. Once you're clear on your assignment, according to 2 Timothy 2:15, you study to show yourself approved unto God. And that study is the research. That's the deep dive. That's when it's time for you to learn how to serve your customer at the highest level. So you run your business with a measure of excellence that makes it clear that you're set apart. And this won't happen without consistent prayer. So I just wanted to make sure that I emphasize this, because we can get lost in the excitement and the exuberance and forget the one that really should be the focal point of everything that we do. Now, I want you to pay attention to what the description of what I do doesn't require. It doesn't require a website, a logo, a color palette. It doesn't require an LLC on day one, a funnel, a content calendar, or a single follower. All that comes later once you're clear about who you help, how you help them, and most importantly, why you've dedicated yourself, why you're committed to helping them, because you can't build momentum without clarity. Many people spend 6 months or even longer than that building the wrapper, but they never build the offer, and they don't build the offer because they're not clear. Don't let that be you. Which brings us to the first move you absolutely can complete this week, and I want you to set that as a goal. Make a list of 10 people, preferably more, and schedule time to speak with them to ask for their feedback, preferably in person. Share your one sentence. Here's who it is that I'm committed to serving. Here's why I'm passionate about it. And I'm taking the first few people at a founder's rate, and I thought of you and maybe people you know who could benefit. Now, if you want to share that you believe that this is what God wants you to do, then feel free. If not, then, that's up to you. But then I want you to stop talking and listen. Don't keep going on and on. Listen for their feedback. You will be asked questions, but don't feel like you have to have every answer. Just be honest with people, which they'll find refreshing. Pay close attention to the questions you're asked, even if you do have the answer, because if one person has the question, then very likely many others will as well. Now, if you get some yes responses, congratulations, you have a business. Not a hobby, not a plan, but an actual business, because a business is just an offer plus a buyer. Everything else you can get later. And if you get more no's than yeses this time, it's still a win, because a no from a real person teaches you more than any month of planning or a bunch of activities ever could. Even more than the favorable responses, but just don't get discouraged. Don't let that happen. It's just feedback. Don't be afraid to ask the people you spoke with why they don't have an interest, and make them comfortable enough to be honest with you, because maybe it's an issue of timing, and it's not actually a no per se, it's just not right now. Or maybe they've overcome the situation and don't feel like they need what you have to offer, but maybe they can refer you to some people. And you have to be open to this as well, and this is the painful part. Maybe this is the fifth thing you said you were excited about, and they just don't trust you professionally. That can happen, and you have to be able to take that on the chin and keep going. You can't get all wound up and hurt and defensive and all that kind of stuff. First you were selling this, then you were selling that, then you were fired up about something else, and then 6 months later it was something else after that. And here you come with the fifth thing that you're supposedly excited about, you're supposedly committed to, and they're supposed to believe you and take you seriously. You have to deal with that and move on. And over time, if you're consistent and committed and you're behaving like it's an assignment, not an opportunity, then maybe later on they'll begin to trust you down the road. You have to be open to that. You just can't get offended. And don't treat people like they have no right to be honest with you when you ask for their time, and honesty is exactly what you need at this point. Not just in business, but in life. Their perception of you is their reality, and you don't have to like it. You have to steward it. And to be honest, the response, the feedback, even if it stings a little bit, will go a long way in determining whether they ever trust you. If you steward it properly, then you'll have an opportunity to be trusted. If you don't, you won't. And I'm telling you that you may come to find that the no you got could be the greatest blessing of your early entrepreneurial journey, because you're getting data you may not have gotten if people said yes without hesitation. Of course we want the yeses, but we learn more from the no's. And that's true in life. We love the good times, but we learn more in the down times. So think about it. If you're comfortable enough to put them on your list and invite them for a conversation, then they almost surely know, like, and trust you personally, but again, maybe not professionally just yet. But if you're a person that they don't trust personally, then they will never trust you professionally. Even if they want what you have, they'll just get it from someone else. So whatever feedback you get is an opportunity to make adjustments, so you have to be open to that. That's just part of the deal. And I'm going to share with you the number one way to deal with objections. But before I do, please take a second to smash that like button and share this video with someone you think may benefit from biblically based business and wealth building content. This would really be helpful to the channel, so thanks in advance for doing so. Now, I spent over 20 years in wealth management, and it only took a few meetings in my first year to understand that people generally say no for one of 5 reasons. I don't think I need it, can't afford it, it's not the right time, I can get it cheaper somewhere else, or I don't understand it. It's usually one of these reasons or some variation. Now, once in a while you'll get something out of left field, but that was pretty rare. The key takeaway I learned from some OG advisors is that you can answer most of these objections in your presentation, or in your case, in your content. They don't think they need it because you didn't paint a picture of why it's important, or they don't feel like they can afford it because they don't understand that they can't afford not to. You didn't make the point that it's always the right time to do the right thing for yourself and your family, and there's never a perfect time for anything. And when it comes to a pricing conversation, you didn't demonstrate enough value up front without them having to ask for it. And if they don't understand it, then that's on you too, because maybe you're using tech bro language, or you're using $20 words instead of making things simple enough for anyone to understand, just like Jesus did with parables. All of these things can be addressed up front to drastically reduce the likelihood that you'll be on the defensive once you hear it from a prospect. That's why these meetings with people on your list are so critically important, and they don't have to be long. They don't have to be drawn out. They don't have to take 2 hours. A cup of coffee or a light lunch that you pay for in exchange for the information you get from them is plenty to move forward. Now, maybe you never do business with the people on your list, and that's okay, but the intel you get from these interactions can set you up, if you do the work, to make countless sales you would have lost had you not gotten that information. In other words, no matter how they answer, you still have the advantage because either you win or you learn, which of course is a win. Now you know exactly what to sharpen in your presentation so you can get back out there. Then you begin to go online, and again, this is free. You start teaching. So pick a subtopic relative to your niche and do a 30 or 60-minute teaching at a consistent time once a week and get feedback. Earlier I said don't jump on social media right away because this is the reason you want to get those no's from people in those one-on-one meetings before you start sharing to a broader audience and get those no's. So you can address those objections while you teach, get answers, get feedback, and then address those questions in future teachings. So in other words, you want to make all of the mistakes you can make in front of a small audience, and then at least you won't make the same mistakes in front of a larger audience. Now, rest assured, you absolutely will make new mistakes, but once again, you either win or you learn. So there's no way you can lose. And you'll appear to be the expert you are because before people can think up objections, you've already addressed them. Remember that preparation is turning information into intelligent anticipation. This is how you start. You don't start with absolute certainty because no one does. You step out on faith with the resources that you have. Let me close a loop that I opened at the top because I promised you the one question that settles what you were called to build, and here it is. What would you keep doing if the recognition never came because the people you serve would still need it? Now I want you to sit with that for a minute. Just let that resonate with you. What would you do if no one ever knew you were doing it? The answer that rises up in you is almost surely your assignment, and maybe you've been carrying it for years or even decades. And the moment you accept it, everything changes because you stop asking what might sell and you start asking what might help. And your offer creates itself because the solution becomes obvious. And if you maintain a posture of somebody that's willing to serve, that's willing to help, that's dedicated to people, you'll never have to worry about provision for yourself. Even if others in the same niche are doing the exact same thing, do it with extraordinary excellence and with the nuances God gave you and only you, because nobody can copy that. And it's principles like these I teach here on the channel and during my 5-day Calling to Cash Flow Challenge, which you can learn more about in the description box below. Now, if this is the kind of thing you want showing up in your inbox each week, I encourage you to subscribe because every week on this channel, I teach coaches, creators, and entrepreneurs, and even aspiring ones, how to build a business and wealth God's way. So go ahead and get started. And I say this all the time, that your assignment is the answer to someone's prayer. Don't make them pray longer than necessary. Be the answer. So this is Ralph. Thank you very much for tuning in. I really appreciate it, and I never take for granted when you watch my content. Always remember that faith plus work equals success, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks very much. Take care and God bless.